Prashant Paroda, who's the portfolio manager, emerging markets at Allspring Global Investments, joins us now on the show. Prashant, good morning. With all that's taken place on NVIDIA and Salesforce overnight, we've seen some supply for the Indian markets at higher levels as well. What's your sense? Where do we go from here on the emerging market pack, India and the AI trade? Does that unravel further?
Well, I think the biggest question, NVIDIA actually had pretty good earnings, but the biggest question mark for investors is that the 700 odd billion of Capex that their customers are doing, it has that peaked out. And that is, even though with the good numbers, you see the stock isn't moving as much because some investors have concern over that. Now, if the AI trade kind of plateaus from here, I think it augurs well for markets like India, where you have, you'll see sort of mid-teens earnings without any of these AI kicker stories. So we'll see how the market shakes out. But yeah, the question in everyone's mind is the 700 billion Capex. Is this kind of the top?
That's true. And the other big question is how much bigger can NVIDIA get, right? It's already 7.5%, 8% weightage in the S&P 500, about 5.5% of MSCI. So just the sheer size, right? How much bigger? And I remember in 2023, Apple also hit this peak threshold of close to about 8 times of the S&P 500 weight. And it acted as a natural ceiling. There was forced selling, which is to come in to rebalance your portfolio. So there's also that question, like how much bigger after hitting this near $5 trillion market capitalization can NVIDIA get in one's portfolio, even though the growth numbers are very strong. But Prashant, back to Indian IT. I remember in our last conversation, you said you're underweight Indian IT. And then you have companies growing at 65, 70%, like NVIDIA. You can buy that, or you can buy an Indian IT company, which is struggling to grow in low to mid single digits. But valuations are now getting fairly attractive compared to, relative historical context. Is it time to start looking at Indian IT companies, or it's still in a void for you?
I think the IT companies have to kind of prove themselves, and maybe towards, towards the end of this year or in the next few quarters, if there are few IT companies that continue to grow at, higher than sort of single-digit rates, maybe there'll be some relief rally in some of these names. But overall, the question marks will still remain. The problem today in the market is that all the innovation is happening on the private side, and the public markets have to kind of answer. And I think those questions will, once you have an OpenAI IPO, will only be solved then. So till these companies remain private, I think there's always risk of new innovations kind of threatening the public side.
Hi, Prashant. Morning. Good to see you, Vin. What about the flows to India? That seems to have turned around. It appears the foreign money is gradually coming back. And, most of the indicators, the high-frequency indicators on ground indicating the economy is getting into a better shape. You had mentioned earlier that Indian markets could be a surprise package in 2026. You expect us to outperform? Would India be top of the pecking order after the recent underperformance?
Yes, I think as this kind of AI trade kind of plateaus, I think people will look at kind of new opportunities. And India does kind of come in that frame. And when you look at some of these companies are still growing at a decent clip, and valuations also in some of these names is not too high after the underperformance over the last 2 years. So I think India will definitely come into the picture. And, what's happened over the last 2 years is as this Capex binge has happened in US. Initially, NVIDIA took all the profits, and now kind of the memory names have taken a lot of the profit share. But I think as sort of Capex growth year on year at least doesn't grow as high as it used to be, India comes into the picture there.
Just quickly run us through. Have you been buying anything in India? If yes, what?
Yeah,
and why?
we've been selectively adding to some financials in India, Hima, and I think selectively we've been looking at opportunities. And I think the great thing is over the next few quarters, we'll see sort of earnings come out of these names, and you'll see decent growth. So we think other investors will also appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very much for joining in. Moving